you've had your tetanus shots because we're working on some rusty junk today. Hello my friends, and welcome to Tom's Tinkering and Adventures. Behind me we have two motorcycles that I paid the grand sum of $0 for. They were about to head to the scrap yard, and I guess I rescued them. And I don't know why, because this one here is pretty much missing everything. And I thought this one was just about ready to go to the junk too, but the more I'm looking at it, the more complete it appears. And since I have invested $0, I'm going to invest a little bit of time and just see if we can get it to go. If it had this other side cover, it would have to be a pretty complete bike. It's missing the side cover and the air box. Besides that, almost everything appears to be here, and including a title from the original owner, signed in 1978. But I find it kind of odd. I've got two ugly project bikes here, and then a couple of decent looking project bikes over here. Oh yeah, look at these. Look at these hummingbirds. These things are getting aggressive around here. Started giving them some free food. They dive bombed me in my garage. Little fellas. They're everywhere. But let me clear some space out in the garage, and we'll bring this rusty Kawasaki in here and go over a little bit of the details, and we'll see if we can't get some life out of the old gal. Kawasaki KZ750. This is a 1977 model. It's a 750cc parallel twin. We got some awesome rust going on different places here. A lot of this isn't going to be recoverable, but I'll show you how to do your best to make some of this stuff look a little bit better if we can get some fire out of this thing. Like I said, it looks pretty complete, and even though it's ugly, if we can get it going, what the heck, you know? Especially if we can get it going for not much or for free. I mean, obviously you're gonna have to spend a little bit of money. The battery is not here. Well, there is a battery here, but we'll need to get a battery at the very least. And the guy I got it from said that he has keys for it, but he doesn't know where they're at. So what we are going to do is I will show you how we can bypass this ignition here and maybe, you know, work it without that. I've already had to struggle underneath here to remove this seat latch, and that's my fault because I installed the seat. The seat was off. I installed it, and I had just set it down. I didn't latch it, and then I had a buddy over, and he sat on it, and well, it engaged it. So I just took that off by reaching up under here with a 10mm wrench, struggling for a few minutes. The tank looks pretty good inside. Doesn't look awful, doesn't look great, but there's no major rust in there. We ain't gonna concern ourselves too much with that. We'll use an auxiliary tank to see if we can get some fire into this thing. But first things first, I'm gonna remove this ignition. So to get to that, I'm gonna take this headlight off, and then it looks like there's a small cover on the back side of this. So I'll get to that, and we'll see if we can't get that ignition out, and we'll figure out what we're gonna do from there. I love old bikes for this reason. They're easy to work on. This headlight came out with two screws, one on each side down here, and then once the headlight's out, there's some bolts that go through it and some nuts on the inside. Remove that, and then that cover, that plastic cover I showed you there with 3 screws came out, and then this ignition switch was really just held on with this ring on the outside. Usually that's not the case, but we've got it out. I unplugged it. I'm gonna see if I can find a wiring diagram online for this, and I'm gonna make a jumper plug. I'll show you what that is in a minute. Otherwise, the fact that I have a possible key coming for this thing, I don't wanna gut this. Otherwise, I would take this switch apart and remove the pins in it, and don't tell anybody, but a lot of bikes that I work on, rather than spending $100 or whatever to get them rekeyed, I just got out the ignition, and then you can use any key to run them, but don't tell anybody, because there's a lot of bikes running around out here that run on any key. Part of the reason I picked up these bikes, even though like this one is hopeless, is because I like to have extra little bits and pieces on hand. Like looking at this bike, I've got nuts and bolts and fasteners and you know, stuff like that. But if you got room, it's good to have, because metric fasteners, you know, they're just nice to have on hand. It might get you out of a jam. So I've done this to several bikes here. I've got some wiring harnesses that I've salvaged off of numerous bikes over the years. So that is going to help us out when it comes down to making this jumper plug that I'm talking about. So here's the ignition switch. We cannot turn it on because we don't have the key. But RTFM, read the freaking manual. You can see here that it says when the key is off, there is no connection between any of the wires. When you turn the key on, you have contact between the white and the brown wire and between the blue and the red wire, and this tells you where they are. So it is basically across the top two and across the bottom two. Out of my wires, I found this plug here, which is the exact same. So all I have done is, even though the wire colors aren't the same and this looks like kind of a mess, what I've done is I've connected the top two and the bottom two. I've just twisted them together. I'll put a little tape over them. And then what will happen is, once I plug that in into here, which is right there, I plug that into there, it'll be like turn the key on. So when I unplug it, the key's off. When I plug it in, the key is on. I have taken a look at all the wiring in here, and I have found one wire that's broken. Everything else looks pretty good. I'm gonna track that one down and fix it. I'm gonna throw my little lithium battery I've got over here. I'm gonna throw that in there. And then once that's hooked up, we will come on live and see if we have power to anything on this. Okay, we got our wire hooked up again and installed this battery. And there's my neatified jumper plug. Is that a word, neatified? Yeah, I just bundled the wires up and put a rubber band around them. Let's turn ignition on and see what happens. Okay, so we should have ignition on at this point, and I don't see any lights anywhere, and I don't have anything at this point. No lights, no starter button, no horn, no nothing at this point. So we will go over here to the fuse box and start finding out where we have power. I came over here and opened up the fuse box, and I just touched the fuse, and then look at that, we got power. Got a little bit of horn action there, and I got nothing there, but maybe there is a clutch interlock. Let's put you in the stand here and see if we have I see there's a light off of that headlight. Still nothing off the starter button. There you go. We got a little bit of starter action. Stand by. Got a little bit of juice in here. Let's spray some in here for the hell of it and see what happens. I mean, why not? We're here together. Some in cylinder number 2. And I'll put some in cylinder number 1 as well. Let's see what happens. sounds like stuff is happening. Okay, well, that's something. All right, well, I tried a little carb cleaner, you know, but no go, so that leads me to believe we may not have spark, so let's see if we can see any spark here. The starter keeps kicking out too, but probably a bad gear on the starter clutch somewhere. It does have a Kickstarter. But I do not see any spark. So, I imagine that this bike is old enough that it might have points. I'm going to take a look and see if we can figure that out and double check all of our connections. If we can get some spark, this thing might fire. Well, here we are. It's been a while since I messed with points. I don't have any parts laying around for these, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to clean up the contacts on here a little bit. They look a little bit burned. I don't even have a point file. I have a little small machinist file, a little tiny one. So I'm gonna try that, clean them up a little bit. Maybe spray some, I have brake parts cleaner. I don't have any contact cleaner on hand right now. But I'll try that and see if we get any spark after doing that. I was getting ready to crank it over and the little lithium battery just didn't have enough juice. So I pulled the battery out of the Vulcan, which had to come out anyway. The new one hasn't arrived yet. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit in the battery box, but there you have it. Let's see what we got here. Zoom you in. Oh, I saw a little spark. Did you see that? Yeah, got a little bit of spark. All right. I am going to remove my key. I love this key. And we will throw some carburetor cleaner in here and see if we can get a little pop out of it. Okay, I gave it a little hit of the go juice. Let's see what happens. Now we got nothing on the starter button, of course. Come on. We just shut it off and turn it back on. Why is that? Oh, did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? We had a little bit of noise. Let's see if we can recreate that. That starter wouldn't kick out like that. We might have something here. All right, let me see if I can dig down my fuel tank. I'm just gonna hook it up. I'm gonna say the heck with it. Maybe these carburetors will leak, maybe they won't, but I'm enjoying this. Okay, we got some fuel going into the carburetors. insert the key. I'll try to stay out of the way. I brought over my fire extinguisher. We don't want to have to use it, so if I have it. I can't believe it. Holy crap. This rust bucket POS has started up. Actually doesn't sound terrible. You know, and I worked on these two and they both gave me fits. Hello, hummingbirds. Unbelievable. The thing started right up. Let's start it again. I can't believe this thing. Now I find myself wishing I had a battery that fit on this thing. I would really like to take it up and down the driveway. This chain is just in terrible shape though. Before I even started, I soaked it all down with WD-40. And yeah, can you see how stiff it is up there? So I'm gonna soak that down some more. I'm going to start taking a look at this thing a little bit closer. Maybe I'll get it running for a little bit of money and see if somebody wants it. You know, I'm not gonna make any money off this thing because it's just not worth a whole heck of a lot, even in perfect shape. These just weren't very collectible. But so far, everything worked on it except for the right turn signal. I haven't checked the tail light yet. I don't have a bulb in it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it worked. I had the left turn signals flashing. And if I had an air box, man, this thing would be close. But let's see if we can make some of this chrome look a little bit nicer for the heck of it. With chrome that's in as bad a shape as this stuff is, you're not going to clean it with metal polish. So what I'm going to do is I've got this big giant can of WD-40 and some 4/0 or quad 0 steel wool, which is ultra fine steel wool. And I'm just going to blast it a little bit and scrub it a little bit. Yeah, you got rust that's gone all the way through the chrome. If this thing operates, this bike operates, you know, the clutch and the transmission is fine, and someone wanted this bike, they could spend some time cleaning stuff like this up a little bit, or, you know, if they had a buddy who has a sandblast cabinet or had access to a sandblast cabinet, you could sandblast this and then just paint it. But you can see that looks better. Doesn't look great, but it looks better. We'll do the back part of it here as well, just as a comparison. Now, this is in really bad shape. You could almost just use coarse steel wool on this because it's so far gone. But a little bit of elbow grease will bring it back to less terrible, I guess you could say, would be the maybe appropriate descriptor. for it. Descriptive words. I'll just do a little bit of time right here. Yeah, a little bit more time would get it even better, but you can tell that looks better. I mean, now it's only embarrassing. It's not frighteningly embarrassing. So I'm going to do the same thing on this front wheel. So we'll take a look at before. And then I will show you an after in just a couple of minutes. Looks good from afar. Far from good. I don't know. Doesn't look terrible. And that was not with a lot of time invested in it. I only did from there to there so I could roll it forward and you can see what the rest of it looked like, but did a little bit more on this fender. And yeah, you can see how the pits and stuff are all evident, but whatever. Cleaned up a little bit of this. Same with that and here and there. So if someone got a bike like this and wanted to take the time, you could clean it up. All this will clean up too. You put like a abrasive wheel or something on a drill and you can sit there and work this. But for now, I mean, she runs. Part of the reason I was messing around with that is because I wanted to leave this fuel hooked up for a while and see what happened. I don't see any leakage. Let's fire it off again. Install my awesome key here. Give it a choke, I guess. We had both turn signals working, so now every light works for sure, except we don't know about the tail light. Tail light appears to work. I can't get the brake light to work, but I'm not even sure if that bulb is good. This thing just started too easy, and I'm having fun messing around with it, even though it's kind of a pile. Now I just want to see if I can kickstart it. What the hell? I mean, it's got a Kickstarter. Let's see if I can start it. Kind of hard because I can't sit on the bike and I don't like kicking it left-handed, or left-footed, I mean. Fun. Well, I figured since I got this thing running so easily, I would just mess around with it a little bit. And since I have that other Honda out there, I was looking at the shocks. They look considerably bigger, stronger, and these are pretty rusty, so everything looks like it's going to work. These are about 1/2 inch longer, but the mount on the top, the rubber grommet on the top, this one has a bigger inside diameter than this one. So I'm going to try to press this one out and see if I can press it into the other one. Now I'm going to use a old method of redneckery, if I can find it here. Hang on. So there we have it right there. There's my press. So I've got a socket that fits inside here, and this one fits outside. And you just tighten this up, and there you go. It's pressing it out. Actually, my bigger socket It's rolling away here somewhere. It's just not big enough. I get a little bit larger size and then we'll finish it up. There we go, we got them both pressed out. So now I need to press the smaller one back into here. Piece of cake. There's the rear shocks installed. Tail light lens installed. Polished up that a little bit. Cleaned the rear rim a little bit. Here we go. I have took my little homemade key. Ran it. There was a little hole in the headlight there. I don't know what that's for, but now I've got a key switch. And then this is just to turn on the tail light. That's all that does. Got the front wheel all polished up. I installed the tank. The fuel valve was kind of funky, and I was looking at it and I was like, why does it have two outlets on it? Well, you know, the whole time we've been running this thing, I just had that little auxiliary tank that I have hooked onto this carburetor, and in the entire time I didn't realize that this doesn't feed across to the other one. We were only running on one cylinder. So needless to say, it runs a little bit better now than it even did before. Well, if we can start it. And I stuck a small battery in here because I think I am going to try to drive it. There you go, hello. So I think I'm going to, since that's the ground, that shouldn't matter, I'm going to tape up this positive terminal and tip this battery in here this way and drop the seat down and take it up and down the driveway, because why the hell not? Oh, I did a little bit of practicing on this side over here. I used this little wheel. It's not wire, they're kind of like fibers. I don't know what it is exactly. But that took me about 1 minute. And you can see I just touched that a little bit. We get a little fuel leakage out of the other carburetor now. Well, that figures. No wonder. We'll shut off the fuel for now. But I still think I'm going to drive it. What the hell? Why not? I thought this thing was pretty much junk. And I don't know, maybe it is pretty much junk, but it's running junk. Everything seems to work on it. The rear brake is really the only thing that doesn't work. And I haven't put a whole lot of effort into it, but I am going to put that battery in there, push it outside, and we'll ride it up and down the driveway a time or two. And maybe that'll loosen up all that crud on that chain. Well, here goes nothing. Let's see if we can get it started. That battery doesn't have much juice, so I'm probably gonna have to kick start it. I'll turn on the tail light too, why not? Yes, we're legit. Besides there being no rear brake, this is a fully functional motorcycle. Well, and that mess. Right turn. Turn signals are not the best. The left one used to work. All these switches probably need to be gone through. Yeah, look at that. The neutral light's just barely on. It's probably the weak battery. Thanks for the shocks, Honda. They look better on here. Well, I was about to just take this thing apart and put it in the trash, but I'm actually pretty pleased with it. It works. Everything seems to work on it okay. There's a few bugs to work out. The front brakes are terrible and the back brakes don't work, and the chain is crunchy and all that stuff. But I think if someone wanted a bike, probably for about 300 bucks, you know, you look at a battery, a cheap chain, a couple of cheap tires, throw some air filters on there, or go on eBay and get airbox. I have the rest of the parts to the airbox, just not the airbox itself. And there are side covers on there as well. And spend a little bit of time. Some of this stuff's not going to clean up, but you know, things like this, if you sanded it, you could just paint it black. These, I tried to clean them, they didn't clean up, but the same sort of thing. And some fork seals, even though they're not going to last that long because these are all pitted. But you can clean them up and make it last for a little while. I think it would be an okay bike for someone. And I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it now, because I definitely don't need any more motor vehicles around here. But when it was free, couldn't really pass it up. So, just a fun day in the garage, making it work, and I wasn't expecting it out of it, but that's what we got. So, if you're digging what I'm putting out, give me that thumbs up, and leave some comments down below. And if you're not already a subscriber, please consider doing so, because, you know, I see more people out there watching the videos. Who knows what kind of crazy crap I'm gonna drag home and get running. And I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do with all this stuff, but does anyone out there want a KZ750B? I'll make you a real good deal on it. Thank you very much for watching. Get out there and find your adventure. Adios.